Dear Lord, look lovingly on this group gathered here, and during this meeting as we discuss and deliberate on issues important to this council. Help us to be guided by your Spirit. May we be wise in our discernment, balanced in our judgment, fair in our decision, and visionary in our planning. Though we may at times have differing views, may we listen to one another and be guided by our common goals. May we always be mindful in our words and in our actions of what is best for our citizens and our community. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, once again, welcome everybody to the January 16th council meeting. Appreciate you coming. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lango? Here. Mr. Parsons?
Here.
Mr. Redding?
Here.
Mrs. Dosa?
Here.
Mr. George?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mrs. Rissel?
Okay, all members are present and accounted for. Thank you very much. Before you have the minutes for the January 2nd meeting. Take a quick look at those and if there's any corrections to be made.
I have one thing on page 2. To the ordinances. The third ordinance, down in the middle where it says motion to suspend, 2 reading rule made, and then it should say after that, roll call vote of 7-0 approve the motion, and then the 2 reading rule was suspended. So there's a sentence missing there.
Okay, how do you want that to read again,
Roll
Bob?
call vote of 7-0, approve the motion.
Has everybody got that? Seen it? Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay, then I would ask a motion to approve as changed.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Mr. Parsons has made a motion to approve as amended.
I'll second it.
Mr. Young has seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Correspondence. I have no correspondence. You do have a number of things on your desk from the fire department and the end of year EMS reports and different papers, but does anybody else have any correspondence? And once again, you also have in front of you your W-2s from last year. Don't forget those. Guest and special events. We have us tonight with some guests. Brad Ackle, was that close? Okay. Carpenter from Marty Transportation here to talk to us.
It's Carpenter Marty Transportation, and we're here to talk about the Hamilton Avenue improvements.
Okay, could I interrupt
yeah.
just first? We need to have you, well, we know your name, but we need your address.
1927 Sandcliff Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, thank you.
So we've been talking with Scott Bauer about the improvements potential improvements on Hamilton Avenue. I wanted to kind of give you a little background on our company and then talk about just the process that we could go through on the project, and then give you some examples of past projects that we had. So as you said, I'm Brad Ackle. I'm a civil engineer. I've been a civil engineer for 23 years now, in the city of Cincinnati. Just started working with, well, I've been with Carpenter Marty for about 7 years now, but I do road designs, anything with transportation projects, so road design, drainage. Most of the projects that I've done have been in the Cincinnati area, so we work for City of Cincinnati, Hamilton County, Ohio Department of Transportation, City of Mason, a lot of different municipalities in the area. So the majority of our work is for infrastructure. I've got Gina with us also. She's our lead traffic engineer. She does traffic analysis. She's been in the industry for 12 years, and so she'll be kind of leading the analysis and study on the project. Carpenter Marty, we are, like I said, basically a full-service transportation engineering firm. We do road design studies, safety studies, bridge engineering, survey. Again, it's our bread and butter, and we're mostly just in Ohio. We've got 2 offices. Our main office is in Columbus, and I run the Cincinnati office. The Southwest Ohio office, we're actually in Blue Ash. So we have a West Virginia office also, but about 90% of our work is all in Ohio. So on the one handout you have, at the bottom, it kind of shows all of our services. The highlighted services show our ODOT pre-qualifications. So you'll see the safety studies, the road design, the bridge. So we're basically pre-qualified with ODOT for all design services for road and transportation. So I think that's it for us and our quick background. I want to get into the Hamilton Avenue improvements and the study and kind of how we would go about running the project. I think the first thing, we've had some initial discussions with Scott about the scope and what the city wants to do out there, but I think that's something that we can maybe refine a little bit better, is what are the city's goals for Hamilton Avenue? If it's beautification, if it's making it more pedestrian friendly, if it's slowing down traffic, doing some traffic calming. Those are the kind of things that we would start with, is identifying those goals, getting a preliminary scope and budget and schedule. And you'll also have the proposal that we gave Scott already. This is kind of this would be to do a design for everything. So starting with the study, making selections of what the improvements would be, and then going all the way through construction documents, so design documents, final engineering documents. So it kind of takes in the whole Hamilton Avenue within Mount Healthy. So, we can always break it down and kind of tailor the scope more to what you're looking for. So I just kind of want to start with that we'll start off with identifying the goals and kind of the scope items that the city wants to start with. And then as we go through, the scope can change. We're not set in stone. If we see that budgets are over, we can kind of pull back scope. If we see we've got extra money, extra funding comes from somewhere, then we can, increase the scope, whatever it would be. But that's kind of how we would start. And then also begin to identify potential funding sources for construction. You've got the one funding source from the county right now that would kind of get you through, pretty much through design. Maybe not final design, but it'll get you to a point where you've got an alternative selected, and you can go for, it'll help you go for further funding once you have that kind of master plan set. After that, we would go into data collection and the analysis, and Gina is going to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so like Brad said, my name's Gina Balsama. I would be the traffic analysis lead on this project. So on the sheet, we talk about the data collection and the analysis. So we would collect 13-hour turning movement counts, and that includes vehicles, trucks, buses, pedestrians, bikes, basically everything. And you collect it with video cameras, so that way if you all want to, you can review that back in the future. Great thing for public meetings as well if there's something you want to share. We would then get growth rates from OKI, so making sure that you want to design the city for how it is now, but you also want to keep the future in mind. I know there's development potentially coming, things could change, so we don't just look at the volumes now, we look at the volumes in the future. So part of that is getting growth rates from OKI. And then, like I said, looking at pedestrian movements, we can also look at crashes if you want to, looking at where those crashes occur now for pedestrians. I know talking to Scott, parking was, something that you were all interested in talking about as well. So we could collect, basically what we do is we look at how vehicles are parked now, where we have some issues with parking, where maybe there's some free parking that isn't being utilized as much, and then that parking situation for the future as well. Future developments coming, how that parking would change. So we can analyze all of that, looking at the signal timings and the utilities in the area, all of that being taken into consideration. So like I said, we would project the traffic volumes to 2035 in the future, do some capacity analysis to show you what types of delays you have at those intersections, how we can improve things. And we're not just looking at vehicles getting through. Obviously, we want to make sure we have a good balance between vehicles getting through, but time for pedestrians to cross safely, kind of that tango between all of them. We would also conduct signal warrant analysis. I know this is kind of a touchy subject, but something that's important, especially if you're going after funding through ODOT, you have to make sure that your traffic signals meet warrants. I know that's something that, cities will go down that whole getting funding from ODOT and then later on figure out that they're not warranted and that funding gets ripped from them. So just something that we check out to make sure everything's good. And then obviously just making sure that everything that we're doing in our analysis aligns with what you want in your city.
Yeah, so we kind of come back to the scope after that analysis was done and make sure that we're, meeting the scope, and that would be if we wanted to make changes, we'd make it there. Then after that, after the analysis, we'd start developing the concept. So what is a few typical sections that you might want of the road? So are we talking about adding bike lanes? Are we talking about increasing sidewalk width, maybe bump outs at the intersections, at the corners of the intersections to reduce crosswalk length, and also that helps with traffic calming? So all these ideas, we would come up with several different sections through, or alternates for the sections that we can review and kind of apply those for either the whole length or different sections of the Hamilton Avenue, and see how it affects all the traffic and how it affects utilities, and that would be, after we have those alternatives, we would then do a comparison of the alternatives and see which one, everyone kind of agrees with. We could hold public meetings, we could hold stakeholder meetings, get input from the public and the stakeholders, from the neighbors out on Hamilton Avenue, and that's a big part of our analysis too. We would actually do some of that early on in the gathering phase, in the data gathering phase, to just see what it is that is needed out there on Hamilton Avenue. So once those alternatives are put together, we'd put a report together, come back together and find a preferred alternative. Once that preferred alternative is selected, we can use that and try and go out for additional funding, try and find either alternative transportation funding. I don't know if we'd be able to get CMAQ funding, which is air quality funding, since we're improving sidewalks and if there's bike lanes are added. So I keep saying bike lanes, it's just, there's many different ideas out there what we could do. So, and then once funding is acquired, then we go into actual construction design documents. So actually developing the design documents and then going into bidding and construction. And, you know, this is the type of project that Carpenter Marty kind of lives for, because, you know, it takes in almost all aspects of our company, from the traffic studies, the survey, the road development, the construction document development. So these are the type of projects we really get excited for. So the next page, just a little more information about me and Gina, and then we also have Dustin on there. He's in our Cincinnati office as well. He does a lot of the concept plan and road development planning plans. And then the last page, you'll see some examples of similar projects that we've done throughout Ohio. I'll let Gina talk a little bit more about them, about the study aspects and how those turned out.
Yeah, so Drexel Avenue is one that I thought you all would be interested in. It's in the city of Bexley, Ohio, which takes a lot of pride in their trees and the way that the city looks. And so this was a road that had a very wide typical section, and people were speeding through it. And so the city came to us and said, how can we get these speeds lower? And I said, well, you can't just do that by posting a sign that's lower. What you need is to really make vehicles feel like they need to drive slower on that road, because posting a sign is really not going to change anything. People are still going to drive the speeds that they want to. So what we did is we did traffic studies and looked through different alternatives, just like we're talking about with you all, with bike lanes, different pedestrian accommodations. And what we came down to was adding bump outs and keeping the on-street parking, because that was very important to them, and having medians where we could place them, because another thing that was important was, you know, medians with trees in it are great, but really what that also does is restrict turning movements at intersections and driveways. So we strategically placed medians throughout the corridor. So you get the slowing down, you get the nice trees, but you can still make all the movements at the drives. And we did a speed study that we're working on with them now, just to look at, okay, we can actually lower speeds now, just because you have these traffic calming measures that are really working out there already. So another project, like Brad was saying, seeing projects through from you know, the idea of a study all the way to construction, and then even the after study, that's what we live for here. Cleveland Avenue is an example of a project in the city of Columbus. So this was at Columbus State Community College. They were upgrading some buildings out there, and it started with a traffic impact study to see the impacts of expanding the college, but then it also looked at, okay, we have this really wide road right in front of the college that's really just about the vehicles, but this is a college campus. We have a lot of pedestrians. We also want the college campus to look nice. So we did what we call a road diet, so taking that 4-lane typical section, so 2 lanes in each direction, and changing it to a 3-lane typical section, so 1 lane in each direction with turning lane in the middle, medians where you can see that in the picture there where we fit in a median, and then on-street parking. We had space for everybody there. And that really turned out great, and is a good way for people to come into the college area and kind of get that feeling of a college town as opposed to just a traffic highway as it was before. And then another example, this was actually the city of Bexley, a joint with the city of Columbus. They had another 4-lane typical section. They had a lot of speeding and actually a ton of crashes. So this was a big Vision Zero push for the city of Columbus, working with the city of Bexley. And so, again, we did a road diet. This is a common theme going on, but reducing it down to 1 lane in each direction, adding medians where we could, adding crosswalks, because there's churches and schools in the area. So really looking at every aspect there. We looked at bike lanes for this one, but really felt like it wasn't the best option, at least for now, unless they change that typical section, just because the bike lanes, you know, they're nice, but it's difficult when you have kind of a crowded road and that bike lane isn't that wide and doesn't have enough space for a buffer. We really want to keep those cyclists safe too. So in some situations, it's better to keep them off the road if possible. So really just weighing those different options. And then at the end here, we also have some parking study experience, just showing you all. We've done a lot of parking studies. I know it's less exciting than the other road diet projects, but we have that experience also.
So, yeah, that's what we got. I want to open it up for any questions that you all might have for us.
Mr. Redding?
So Metro is working on their bus rapid transit. Are you familiar with that? Have you done any work in Cincinnati with them?
Not with Metro, no.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm aware of it, yeah.
Okay, so I think we're second in line to, what was that, Scott Redding Road, or?
I'm not sure who was first, yeah.
Yeah, I think Redding, I thought it was Redding Road
Redding,
was
okay.
first, but whoever that first is, we're second. So,
Okay.
so that would be
Yeah.
an impact.
So that'd be,
Yes.
you know, they would be a stakeholder that we'd want to bring in the beginning and see what kind of plan they have, if it's, you know, stops or a station or whatever it is, and make sure that we're not doing anything that would restrict them. You know, if we need bus pullouts or something like that, so like kind of early on in that initial design process, you know, we would identify those stakeholders. They'd be one of them utility companies, you know, we'd want to bring them all in to see what plans that they might have and keep them in the design process throughout and keep them informed, and then make sure that they're informing you and us of their future plans too, so.
Yeah,
that's
and
really
we've
good
worked
now.
with BRTs. I know at that Columbus State example that I showed, they actually have a BRT running right there, right in front of campus. So we've had experience working with the idea of BRTs. And really it just comes down to providing a lot of space for utilities out there, because usually they end up having, you know, the big areas covered for people to wait for the bus, and a lot more infrastructure there than your typical just bench with a bus stop. So yeah, we have the ability to work with them, and I'd say a big piece of that is also the first mile, last mile. So you have your bus stops, but then what do people do once they get off the bus? How do people get to the bus? So it's really tying that in with the ped and bike infrastructure as well.
Okay, thank you. And then one last question. Are you I saw that you were ODOT pre-qualified, so you're used to working with state route restrictions with
Yes.
with the state of Ohio?
Yeah,
Okay.
very much. And we're, I mean, ODOT's maybe 60% of our revenue. I mean, we do a lot of work for ODOT, and it's throughout the state. And we have a good relationship with District 8, the district down here. So, yeah, we know their standards. So, yeah. And we work with Hamilton County as well. So, not that, I don't know that they would come into play as much. But, yeah, we understand the state standards for, and, you know, another thing with that is they have recommendations. If you do want to do landscaping, you know, they kind of have some recommendations on what they like to see as far as tree sizes or tree types. Sometimes you don't want like big broad leaves falling in the roadway. They create slippery conditions, and then obviously sight distance. And then maintenance, just, you know, don't want roots and stuff getting under the sidewalk and the road and the other infrastructure, the utilities and the storm and all that.
I've noticed
Great,
most,
thank you.
excuse me,
No, please.
I've noticed a lot of center planted areas combination of, pavers and trees. The trees last about 3-4 years and then they're gone
Yeah.
because the community's tired of fighting with them.
Yeah, and we've done some designs with landscape architects and a lot of the medians that I've worked on, they're also installing irrigation systems in them too. And that's a good and a bad thing, because obviously it'll keep your trees living, but when it's in the median, sometimes that equipment gets hit because usually the controller's above ground, the electric and stuff like that, and that's a big mess sometimes. So there's pros and cons to both of it, but yeah, you're right. And we do have experience with doing more hardscape, like you're saying, the different paver types, different paver colors, different patterns, things like that.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah, yep.
That's good. Anybody else have any questions?
You talked about applying for funding. Is that something that you all do, or you work with, we all?
Yeah, we could help kind of guide that. We have some experience with putting funding applications together. Actually, we have a lot of experience with
Yeah.
putting funding applications together. And a lot of times, that's what we'll do. We'll just, for a municipality, we'll do the funding application for them before we're even under contract for anything, because, Gina's really good at doing these preliminary studies, and some of the applications, you don't need a lot of information. Some of the grants, you don't need a lot of information for. Some of them, they want to see more of a master plan, or see more of a, 60, 70% plan. So I don't know if you have anything else to say about the funding.
Yeah, we've helped a lot of cities and municipalities through the funding process. I think safety funding is a really good example of that too. Just helping them through that process. There's so many funding options out there, and there's so much funds in infrastructure right now. So the options are great. But yeah, we can help you through that process for sure.
And ODOT's a good resource for finding the different funding types too. But there's obviously the county has sources too. So yeah, there's a lot of different routes to go there. But yeah, we would definitely help.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's going to get loud when the fire truck goes out, so that's what that was.
Okay.
Any other questions, council?
Question
None?
for Mr. Bauer. Apparently, this is a company that's been selected?
So there's two. There's another one, Human Nature, that will be here at the next meeting. They
Okay.
couldn't make it this meeting.
All right.
So those were the two.
And this is under the Community Development Block Grant?
Correct. The 3-year grant that we always go for. We have $70,000 available for a streetscape improvements, but it would be traffic study and then implementing some of the results of the study. So
And you were saying you have $70,000 to put towards this immediately for the study? And then from there, we get a certain amount of the study done, that helps you get funding, does it?
Yeah, I mean, I think really we would get all of the study done under that. I think we were at about 40,000 for the full study, and that's with studying everything. That's if we keep the parking study in there and everything. I think the survey was another 30 or 40.
43,000.
Yeah, but again, that's going from Kemper all the way up to Adams, I believe. So it's a probably maybe a longer survey than what you may need. So we may be able to get the survey and this full study in under that 70.
So basically, the more we put our own money into this to get started, the better chance you have at getting funding, do you think, or?
Yeah, it really depends on what funding source you go after, but I'd say the more those funding sources are like the committee who chooses who, is selected
Receives
for
it.
the funds, who receives the funds. They love to see like, okay, this city has really put a lot of upfront work. Like, we know that this project is gonna move forward, because what they hate to see is, they give somebody funding and then they don't meet the requirements, because those funding sources, they're usually allocated in one fiscal year. And if you don't get all of your ducks in a row to get that construction done in that fiscal year, then there's issues.
Yes.
So yeah, you have to make sure that you have all of those requirements.
It's showing them your commitment.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I
yeah.
was kind
So,
of,
and so kind of to that point, some of these grants, they even take into account, like Gina was saying, it doesn't have to be a match. It could be some funds that you've already put into it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Or multiple funding sources being obtained, they
Mhm.
like to see that
Yeah.
too.
understand. Council, any other questions?
I guess,
Administration?
County funding, what kind of county funding were you looking at? And what, have you done any projects around the county and some city similar to Mount Healthy?
So at my previous company, I did a project through Colerain for the county. As far as the funding types with the county, I had not heard of the fund that you got, that the city got, so I was not aware of that one. But we've done projects for Anderson Township, for Sycamore Township in Hamilton County. But yeah, as far as the county funds, I haven't had much experience with the county funding. But a lot of applications are similar, and we've got a good relationship with Eric Beck at the county engineer's office, so we can always reach out to him and find more.
So basically though, the relationship we have with ODOT opens up opportunities for funding.
Yeah, there's a lot more funding opportunities through ODOT than just through the county.
Right.
so,
Okay, that's what I wondered.
Ross,
Yes, Mr. Redding.
one other question. So if, say we get this all done and have some other funding that we could use, whether it be from city funding or from grant funding, have you ever seen one of these like not get accepted and then you apply for it in year 2 and year 3? Or how does that work? Do you typically not get approved with funds in year 1, or do we have to?
It really, so the funding ebbs and flows, right? Some years are good, like there's a lot of funding available. The competition could be low. It really depends on the year and how the funding sources look. Right now, I think the timing is great. Could we hit some depression? Sure. We don't have a crystal ball, but yeah, I would say overall we can help you through the funding. There are funding sources out there.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, ODOT was throwing a ton of money into safety funding. Like, they were begging for projects because they didn't have enough. And then it seemed like the following year, maybe 2 years later, it dried up just a little bit, and then you started to see some projects not get selected. But then you could come around the next year. Sometimes you could just submit the same project and it would end up getting funded, or maybe you tweak it a little bit. When they present the applications, usually you get comments on why it wasn't approved, and you can kind of address those.
Amend it then?
So
Okay.
yeah, so you could go like 2 cycles without getting it, then the 3rd cycle you get it.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes even if they turn you down, they give you recommendations for other options as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like, okay, you don't get formal safety funding, which is a larger bucket, but you could try to go after abbreviated safety funding or systemic safety funding. There's all these different buckets of funds, and ODOT knows it best. We know how to work with them, but obviously ODOT knows it best. So they kind of help you through the process as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? If you have nothing else, I'll thank you for coming.
All right, thanks for the time.
Visiting us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I'm kind of excited about the project, if we can get it going.
Well, like I said, it's, for us, this is a very exciting a project for us, just with all the different parts, so.
Yes. Maybe we can do something about that Perry and Compton Road intersection, huh? Okay. Scott, did you want to go with the chief?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that if you
Yeah,
want.
why don't you?
So, Chief's going to give an update on the January 1st incidents.
January 1st incidents with an S.
Evening, guys. 2023 was a pretty quiet year from a criminal standpoint, from Part 1 crimes, so we saw a reduction. Unfortunately, on January 1, our luck ran out. Two situations. One was the shooting at Speedway. The subject is in critical condition still. Then there was the shooting on Hamilton Avenue. Tough situations, tough scenes. I was out at both of them. I'm happy to say that we have 2 people in custody, one for each crime. These were unrelated crimes. And I was just proud of the fact that how our officers, along with neighboring agencies, worked together to establish the crime scenes, taped off the scenes. EMS responded as well to the first one. We called in the assistance of the Hamilton County crime scene investigative team. Not that we didn't have we don't have the expertise to do it, we just don't have the manpower. And the cooperative effort that Hamilton County reached out to us, and we reached out to them with along their crime scene analysts, their evidence technicians, and they have a lot of the toys that we would love to have as a small city, but we just don't have the funding for it, and they are more than happy to come out and assist us with this. We went to briefings every day, and we made tremendous progress on both of these crimes. They were treated as completely separate crimes. We had different detectives assigned to us. Our new detective in waiting, Ben Jones, was out there. Chris Jones helped as well. Completely cooperative effort. You look at these things and you say, what is the solvability factor once you see one of these scenes? And I'll be honest, when you see these things, you're probably thinking in the neighborhood of 20% that these things are going to get solved. The fact that both of these crimes and both these people are in custody in less than 2 weeks was unbelievable. And these are solid, tight cases. It's not one of these things where you're just reach for probable cause. These are solid, tight cases. The documentation and the GPS and the cell phone data and the video evidence that we collected, it was truly a cooperative effort between Hamilton County. I reached out to them. I reached out to the sheriff and expressed our gratitude as far as those guys helping. I came from Warren County, and not saying that there wasn't a cooperative effort in law enforcement up there, but it just seems like it runs a little different down here. The sharing of resources, since we are smaller agencies, the sharing of resources and the willing to help. I was pretty proud of our team here at Mount Healthy, as well as the cooperation that everybody gave. These cases aren't over. There's still some other residual things happening with this. The wheels of justice move slow, so as far as when this thing actually goes to trial or how this thing gets adjudicated, it's going to take some time. Obviously the concerns in Mount Healthy, the safety concerns. I argue that we're probably a safer city than we were after January 1st. One of the incidents was related to Mount Healthy, the other one really wasn't. But the fact that when this stuff happens, we take it very, very seriously. We use all our resources, and we use the resources available to do what we can to solve these crimes. I can't go into too much of the detail as far as how it was solved and what's going on. These things are still in the legal process, but rest assured that these 2 crimes were, I was just proud of law enforcement and how it was handled. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on this or not.
Just want to tell you, we're really proud that you were able to apprehend these people and
Yeah, I mean, Ben Jones, our officers out first on the scene, they did everything right. I mean, the scene integrity, getting there, even after the other one where you go back and you find video and, you knocking on doors and just good old-fashioned police work. I was really proud of our officers, and it's our officers downstairs that are out there on the road doing this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I seen 2 officers, investigators. It was not our officers,
Yeah.
but whoever they were,
Yeah.
township or county, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were out uptown walking around looking for video evidence,
Yeah.
knocking on doors. So
Yeah, it's cooperative effort. It's not one of
Yes.
these glory grabbing things like this. It's the way police work should work.
Yes.
And I was extremely proud.
Yeah.
Unfortunate
Well, that's
situation,
wonderful.
but it was handled really well.
wonderful. Anybody got any questions? Mr.
Just
Redding?
2 questions for the chief. Chief, from hearing about the homicide on the news, it sounded like the participants, I'll say, knew each other or were
Correct.
familiar with each other.
Yeah.
And if you can't say, but the incident at the Speedway, was that similar?
Similar, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these weren't random acts?
No,
Yeah,
they weren't.
okay.
Yeah, to your question, no, they weren't random acts.
Okay.
They were targeted and not just random things. No, absolutely. Yeah, they were known to each other.
And then the stepped-up patrols, have they led to any increase in, say, arrest or any, I guess, new knowledge that you've gained?
Yeah, I guess it's a good thing. No, I mean, we've done extra patrols. I mean, my theory on traffic stops, there's nothing more visible than a nighttime traffic stop. And not only does it affect the person that you stop, but everybody else that drives by. It shows that we're a vigilant city. Our officers are out there doing things at night, and that's what our officers are doing. So, like I said, it was an isolated type thing. Have we gotten more crime with the more traffic stops? Really, no, we haven't. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, you're still getting your traffic violations, you're driving under suspensions, things like that, maybe an OVI here or there, but after January 1st, things just kind of went right back to normal.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, it's too darn cold to be outside anyway,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question about your report that you provided?
I don't want to, I mean, yeah, you
Just
can, yeah.
real quick,
Yeah,
just,
sure, yeah, yeah.
thank you for providing that, but I did notice a couple of trends here. The aggravated assaults in 2023 were 80, and the prior 2 years in the 20s.
I got a question, yeah. The way we're reporting things in our reporting system is not accurate. So this is,
The current one or the old ones?
the way we're doing things over the last year was not correct. And I'll give you a simple thing. If an officer is dispatched to an aggravated robbery, that's automatically what is going into our reporting system. And they were leaving it that way. So you may be an aggravated robbery when you go up there, and it may just be a trespassing. So it's incumbent on the officer to go back and change the nature of the crime to a trespassing or unfounded. So these are actually reported as these crimes, but to say we had 80 aggravated robberies is not accurate. Is
Okay.
not accurate. So we're trying to go back and clean up some of that data, but certainly the new data coming out in 2024 is going to be clean data. And we're instructing our officers to accurately report what's happened. Just because it's dispatched to a fight in progress, it could just be kids playing or a noise complaint or things like that. So clearly reflect what the type of call we get in our reporting system.
Is the motor vehicle theft accurate?
That's accurate, unfortunately.
38?
Yeah. The
Is
motor
this
vehicle
people
theft.
leaving their cars running at the
No,
stores?
Mr. Parsons, it's really the Kias and the Hyundais that are easily stolen.
Okay.
And those.
Oh, the Kia Hyundai things? Okay.
Yeah, and we're not immune to this. It's everywhere. It's City of Cincinnati, it's Montgomery, it's Columbus, it's all over the country.
Yeah, I've seen it on the news and all.
Yeah, and
So that's
unfortunately,
what this
unfortunately,
is.
that is accurate, yes, sir.
And it's my understanding it's a $10 fix, correct, or $20 fix to prevent that?
It can be. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we offered the steering wheel locks, and some people took us up on those. Yeah, I know. Thank God the Hyundai and the Kia have corrected the problem, but there's still those vehicles
Okay.
out there that are, I mean, we're talking about vehicles that the same vehicle gets stolen 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing else, council? Questions? Thank you, chief.
All right, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to public input. Anybody here who would like to address council? Jim, come on up and give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. Jim Lowenberg, 1418 St. Clair Avenue. And just a comment or question about the street improvements. I think there's a lot of potential there. And for those of you who were on council when the CDBG application was made, you may remember this grew out of an effort to try to get repaving of the alleys and parking lots. And that's actually what the proposal that was approved by the county. And I guess at some point it morphed into street improvements. I'm not sure when that happened. I don't remember that discussion at city council, but whatever. The county had approved landscape design basically to make the alleys and parking lots tie in with the business district rather than just going in and putting blacktop down. So that was what the original proposal was, and that was I think the proposal was to bring in a landscape designer. That's where Human Nature came in. They may do street improvements, I don't know, but that was where their name first came up. So I'm not sure. This scope is a little different, and I would just encourage you to add the alleys and the parking lots into the scope of the streets, because it doesn't make sense to only improve the front yard and not the backyard, because it all ties into the business community, and that's what's needed to improve it, the whole thing. So as these discussions are happening, I would encourage you to put that in there. It may be a bigger project than what there's funding for, but that was how it originated, and at some point it morphed into something different. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Anybody else who'd like to address council? No. Okay, committees and commissions. Beautification Committee, Ms. Lingo.
No report.
Business Partnership, Mr. Young.
No report. They did not have a meeting this past month.
Well, I might as well do the Alliance then.
Alliance.
Anything there?
Find my notes here. We're still working on details of the new properties that were purchased there on Hamilton Avenue. Rent's being collected. Working on a scope for some improvements, some capital improvements, and working on the details of the agreement. So we still got a little bit of work to do, so it'll be a little while before we do that. So still working on it, but everything so far is going as well as can be expected.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Economic development, we just did that. No, we didn't. Anything on economic development, Mr. Young?
That was that.
Okay.
Yep.
Finance, Mr. Parsons.
I did review the December statements that came out in our packet. I did notice that all of our funds are positive or zero, and that's good, so everything looks to be in good shape for the end of '23. That's all I have.
Thank you. Library, Ms. Dosa.
Thank you. I don't have any updates on the new library site, but I did reach out to Lacey to see if there was any new developments or anything she could share in the progression of that project, and nothing is happening as of right now, other than what they've already stated. The library is still continuing their regular scheduled programs for youth and adults and families. The library is offering tax assistance, depending on what type of assistance you want. The Grossbeck branch and the North Central branch are helping with on-site tax assistance for people that are interested in that. Also, the library is offering a Reserve a Discovery Pass. The Discovery Pass is a program that the Cincinnati-Hamilton County Public Library card holders can use their library card to reserve a pass and get free admission to cultural institutions like the museum, parks, and more. For more information about that, log on to the library's website and look on there, and you can make your reservations and print that pass before you go to visit, which I think is a great opportunity, especially with the winter, for families. They're still offering after-school meals for the youth for ages from 1 to 18. They're available Monday through Friday, 3:30 to 4 at the library. You just have to eat the meals at the library. Other than that, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Well, Parks, Keisha.
Thank you. Upcoming, I am going to have an open meeting, public forum, February 13th in Chambers, to discuss the library, not libraries, I just talked about the libraries. Brain fart, the parks and what we are doing going forward, how we're moving in the progression of how we're going with the park itself. It is an open forum to all the people of Mount Healthy, families, children are invited to come and kind of offer what they think is needed for the park. Any suggestions they may have. I advise the parents to come, bring their children if they have drawings or ideas they want to share them. I think it will allow for the people to not only offer their opinions, but some developmental ideas or volunteer their time or resources that will be helpful in us getting our park situation taken care of. We're working on that, but I think if we have this meeting, the public can come in and ask any questions that they may have that they may not know the answers to, or anything we can have, and I can also show them what we've been doing and how we're progressing in towards getting something in the park, play structure-wise, or how we're moving towards getting that together. So February 13th in Chambers, 6:30. And I'm gonna ask Scott if he'll have it put on the Facebook page and on the city's main page as well. And then once it's on there, we'll share it, and I'll make sure that people that are on Facebook and et cetera will share it too from council. So I would appreciate it if council members would come as well, spread the word. But I think that this will show the people of Mount Healthy a good faith effort on our part that we're making efforts and to value their input as well.
Question?
Good idea.
That's my job, say questions.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Keisha. Safety, Mr. Redding.
No report other than what Chief Dietschheimer presented for the police, and then Chief Lawson will present for fire and EMS a little later here this meeting.
Schools, Mr. George.
Yes. There is an upcoming dental care opportunity that's being provided to the Mount Healthy City Schools School District. It's by Ohio Dental Outreach. Please, I feel like I'm always saying this, but I encourage the community, if your child does go to Mount Healthy, please stay up to date with the website, because the people that update it, hats off to them. It's always really accurate and a lot of neat stories on there. You can find more information about the Ohio Dental Outreach at Mount Healthy City Schools. In terms of dates, this will be the 1st and 2nd week of February, and as well as insurance information and registration information. And then aside from that, I just want to give some acknowledgement to a fellow teammate of mine, a friend and a colleague. You may be familiar with him. He's from Mount Healthy. David Montgomery. He plays running back for the Detroit Lions. And recently, a couple days ago, he scored the first ever touchdown in playoff history for the Detroit Lions. So that's pretty cool. It's a local story, and I just want to say that so that he knows that we appreciate him here back home. So, and that's all I have.
Great, thank you. You might not know, but when Mr. Redding was mayor, he had David Montgomery here in council chambers. I gave him the key to the city. Is that correct, or what? Just an
Yes.
award, a plaque?
So the great thing about David Montgomery, he's multifaceted, very intelligent young man.
Yes.
He received his Eagle Scout Award that night, along with going to the state championship that year. So fine young man, yep.
Yeah, it was neat to have him here.
We love him.
Okay. Streets, Ms. Rissel. I have nothing. Okay. Moving on to the mayor.
President, I have a question for Mrs. Dosa on the park meeting,
Sure.
the 13th. That's not a council meeting?
No.
Okay. I thought you were going to do it before council, but that's an open night. Okay, thank you.
Okay, mayor's report, Ms. Moody.
Yes, I believe everyone has a copy of the Board of Zoning Appeals appointments that I want to make, and with your approval. So I guess you could do that during new business. The terms that, the people that were on it before, there were only 4, and there should be 5. And the terms were supposed to be staggered, and they really weren't. They were expired. So I've contacted and I've added a 5th person. So as you see the names and the years and where their term ends, they'll be more staggered now. So if you could approve that tonight, I would appreciate it. I'm working on Planning Commission appointments. Some of those have expired, some of them have not. And the Civil Service Commission, Terry Todd was the one that was heading that. James Wolf will be heading it, and so you have to have a balance of Republicans and Democrats, so I have found a Republican, and I will be getting in contact with that person, so we'll be firming up that committee also. I went to the We Thrive meeting tonight and was kind of surprised. The person wasn't there, but found that somebody on the We Thrive has applied for a playground grant. I'm not sure. Nobody knew exactly what it was, where it was, but supposedly it has been applied for. So I've talked to Ms. Dosa before the meeting, and we're going to be contacting the person on We Thrive and find out if that's happening. Exciting, and hopefully it's meant for the park, and I don't know what it all entails, but we're going to find out. I went to the We Thrive meeting. There's a lot going on. They're going to be having a new, what they call navigator, that will be taking over Jody Pickering's place. And so it was a very informative meeting, and they're working very hard. And hopefully we're going to coordinate some of these efforts, for example, the playground effort, to see that maybe we can coordinate some of this work so we can all be working together on the same things. I just wanted to highlight one other thing. You know, there's a lot going on at the library, and we also have a business in town that has a lot going on. I don't know if you realize it or not, but if you look on Fibonacci Brewing's webpage, it's not just a brewery. They have a lot of classes. This Saturday, they'll have an Amnesty International group there to write letters for world, you know, situations of people that are suffering in the world. But I went to a class on Sunday on elderberry syrup. Woman was very knowledgeable, and I was happy to see that when she listed some of the things that you can buy, she listed the apothecary shop here in Mount Healthy. And I will say that one of our business owners, woman has now moved into town, who's been wanting to move into town, and as a business owner, she wants to be involved in the beautification committee too, so we're excited about that. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Jenny. Questions for the mayor? Okay, moving on then. City manager's report, Mr. Bauer.
So I've kind of put my report in front of you. It's got a big draft in front of it here. Some of the numbers, you know, I got to kind of tighten up a little bit, but just kind of want to be able to give you a snapshot. You know, I don't plan to go through, or I plan to provide this at every meeting, but I don't plan to go through everything in detail, but just want at any time for you guys to kind of see where any one particular project is standing. So, I mean, I'll just kind of go through and highlight some of these things, but if you have questions on any of these items, you know, maybe I'm kind of setting myself up, putting all this information out there that you can ask me anything, but I'll try to send this out on Fridays with the rest of the packet, so if you have any questions beforehand, you can let me know, or if maybe you want something added to this, I'd be happy to do that as well. Just for the fire department, the items highlighted in yellow, those are some of the numbers I need to tighten up. I need to go into our payroll system and really verify those more in detail, but in general, this will kind of give you the gist of where our staffing levels are at. This Friday, we've got mediation for union negotiations. Steve's going to go over our annual report for 2023. 7 of our 8 full-timers are paramedics. 1 has started class, and hopefully next year in springtime he will be a certified paramedic. Police department, the chief kind of already went over the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day incident. Works, these are all the projects that are kind of ongoing, and kind of for the future, we'll have to start looking at the OPWC and the sort of projects, start thinking about what we want to apply for this year to start next year. The speed humps did arrive today. Justin just picked them up. Not sure exactly when we'll install them, but in general after the snowfall, just so it makes it a little easier to plow. But those should be put down hopefully early spring. Building inspections, just some of the big items that are going on right now. Grants, I've tried to list it out, all the grants that we're going for. I know it's always a hot topic what we're going to apply for, so just trying to kind of put it in our face that when the deadlines are and just what we're applying for, and then that can kind of spark some conversation if we want to change our minds, go for different things. Let's see, flipping over here. Gas aggregation, those are the rates that I've been quoted for the past 2 weeks. You know, I don't know how much of this data, how many weeks in a row we want to see, but as much as you want, I can put on here. And then I think for the electric aggregation that was passed last year, there's an FAQ on your desk. If anyone happens to ask, opt-out letters should be getting sent out for any new people that have moved to the neighborhood. That's pretty much it. Again, I'm going to try to have this updated every meeting. If you have any questions, or again, you want anything added to this, happy to do it. Yeah, that is my report.
Thank you, sir.
Can I just say that I wanted to say this before he did this. You know, I was on council for 30 years. We never received anything like this, like he's received. So I just want to thank him. This was, you know, his idea to do this so that council can be aware of things, and for him to put this out there, I think it's good.
Happy to do it.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Scott, under your grants, could we add the one that we're going to apply for the parks in June?
Add what?
Under the grants, is it just for these, or can we add on there the ones that we potentially will be applying for the parks in June, under 24 and 25?
Well, I guess which, so I know I've got We Thrive on there. Is there one in particular you're thinking of? I know there's maybe the ODNR one. Oh, is that what you're thinking? Okay, yep. What is that one? What is it called? Waterways?
I'll send it to you.
Okay, yeah, I can add that one.
It's okay. I know we talked.
Yep.
Sorry, but I just wanted to.
And I just got an email today from the Stormwater Group. There's, through the EPA, you can get money related to reducing your, is it chloride, whatever's in salt. So it's, we already have kind of a brine system set up, but you can buy extra equipment. It's just ways to reduce just throwing tons and tons of salt on the street. So, I mean, I can add that one too, just little things that we find, just kind of, again, keeps it in front of you to remind you to think about it, and, you know, again, whatever you guys want to add to this, we're happy to do it.
Okay.
Are we gonna have a public hearing or something on the CDBG grants, or are we gonna have a work session, or are we gonna just?
So the other firm should be here at the next meeting. I mean, the funds have already been approved.
I'm talking about for the future.
Oh, for the next round? Yeah, I've not been through the process, and they've not opened it up yet. I honestly am not familiar with, I know you're supposed to have public hearings. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the process, yeah,
They
we'll,
haven't released it yet. They haven't released it yet.
right.
Okay, we'll have a public hearing.
What released, what the process even is for the 3-year? I mean, I assume it's gonna be like before, where, like you said, we have public hearings.
Okay.
So, yeah, once all that comes out, we'll get everything scheduled, so.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, another departmental report, Mr. Steve Lawson, the fire chief.
Thank you. I want to go over last year's fire and EMS incidences. We responded to 1,814 EMS calls and 286 fire runs. Of the 286 fire runs, 30 of them were house fires, and of the 30, we had 4 in our district. So the rest of them we assisted with mutual aid. We're going to use Lexipol once again to write grant for a new fire engine. We're also going to write a grant for the SAFER grant, which is where if we get that funding, they will pay for everything that's needed for a full-time person, and we're going to be asking for 2 or 3. And that is over a 3 or 4 year period of time, I believe. So we're going to be doing that grant too. With that, I received a new quote for fire engine, and from one of the manufacturer.
Prepare yourself.
And he said if we're going to do the grant, to ask for $935,000 for a new fire truck, and that's a increase of $152,000 compared to last year's $783,000. The reason why is because EPA is saying that they have to change their diesel engines. So it's unfortunate, but we have no say in that. The other thing is, talking to the 3 manufacturers that we've been talking with, they say to look at a 3 to 5% increase each year. So that is my report. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Chief Lawson?
I just have a few.
Yeah.
Starting with the fire report, it's by detail, right? There isn't a summary page,
Yes,
correct?
correct. So on that one there, we had an incident on the highway today, and I wasn't able to
No
break
worries.
it down like I did the EMS report.
So just a couple of to make sure I'm understanding this right. Everything that's kind of shaded in dark gray is mutual aid
Correct.
given?
Right.
Was there any notification for mutual aid received? Or was
I
there
wasn't,
anything?
like I said, I got
Okay.
distracted and wasn't able to finish the report.
Okay. Can we
But
just,
if you want me
like-
to, I can.
if like for, say, the next council meeting, just for 2023,
Okay.
because I also saw in here, and just a quick question, it had calls that were, I guess for lack of a better term, you were in route, and they were
Yes.
canceled en route?
Yes, and
Is
then
that
we
part
were
of the-
disregarded.
Yeah, is
That
that
was
part of the
us
285?
responding and then, they said, but sometimes we arrived on the scene, and then, we were disregarded and, returned to our station.
Okay, is that part of the 285?
Yes.
Okay. And then for the EMS report, does the 1,814 calls, is that just transports, or is
No,
that?
that is the total calls. Then, let's see, I'm gonna have to amend that.
Yeah, because I saw hospital transported
Yeah.
to was the same as the number of calls.
Right, and that is wrong. Thank you for
Okay,
seeing that. I'll fix that, give it to you guys at next council meeting.
Okay.
I'll give it to Scott to give
Okay.
to you guys.
all right. Excellent. That was, as far as the reports go, that was my two questions. And then on the grant for a new fire truck, it has to be a new fire truck. We can't get a grant to buy
Correct.
a used fire truck that
Right.
somebody might be trying to get rid of.
The other thing that we have is we're limited on
works.
space. So most pumpers are bigger than 29 feet. But we're limited on the space because of our fire bay.
Okay. So, do they have different, I guess they don't have different size pumpers?
They do.
Okay.
So demos are usually bigger than 29 feet. So we have to do a custom fire truck that is like just a little over 29 feet to fit in the same spot that the truck that we want to replace it with.
Okay. So we got, okay. All right, I think that's all I have. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Anybody else questions for the chief?
I got a question. The city manager's report shows, of course, we're trying to have 5 on staff all the time, and we're averaging about 3.3. Is that mainly because of part-time?
Part-time, yes.
Can't find part-timers.
We find them, then they find a full-time job and they leave.
So you're also applying this month for the SAFER grant?
Yes. Well, the SAFER grant will come out later on this year. The AFG grant will be opening up.
You apply in February?
Yeah.
Okay,
Then,
so you're gonna, we need to add new full-timers.
Right,
for that.
and one of the things with, just to let you guys know, is these two grants come out of the same funding. So I think last year, the federal government had $600 million, and that's for the entire United States to fund all the different projects that they want.
Okay. But we will be applying for 2 or 3 additional full-time people?
Yes.
Okay. I think we need them, but I don't want to have to pay for 100% of them.
Right.
Thank you.
Questions, anybody else? Chief, thank you for coming up. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions. We have one ordinance, ordinance number 24-2039. An ordinance rescinding ordinance number 20-1903 relating to the amending of Chapter 5, Section 5.07, subsection C of the Mount Healthy Employee Policy Manual regarding military leave, military reserve leave in excess of 176 hours. Excuse my
So I do have the
voice.
legislation summary on your desk again. It's same as what it was from the previous meeting, but in general, recommending, so rescinding this, we'll take it back to the 176 hours. That's what the state and federal law requires us to have. In general, that's an expense of probably $6,000 versus what we are now. If someone's on leave for a year, it's about $30,000. So frankly, it's a cost saving. We're still supporting the National Guard, individuals who go on leave, but it's not the unlimited liability that we currently have, so.
Questions, council, comments? We had the first reading at our last meeting on the January 2nd. Well, we had the first reading. So are there any questions? Then what is your wish? Would someone like to make, I'll ask for a motion to adopt.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 24-2039.
Okay, Mr. George has made a motion to, and Ms. Rissel has seconded. Roll call when you're ready.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mr. Parsons,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa, Mr. George,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, ordinance number 24-2039 is adopted. Then we have a resolution. Resolution number 24-1216. A resolution requesting the county auditor to make payments of taxes pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 321-34.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution 24-1216.
Second.
Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Parsons has seconded. Roll call.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mr. Parsons,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa, Mr. George,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, resolution number 24-1216 is approved. That is all of our ordinances and resolutions. We have no new ones. So, Old Business Council. Any old business? Okay, new business.
We can do this under new, I guess. I have something for new business. It's kind of old, kind of new.
Okay, new business.
Something borrowed, something blue. Do we have any additional trash cans that we could put out? And one specific area is the corner of Forest and Compton.
I think we did just put a new one out there.
Did we? Awesome.
I've not gone to look, but
I haven't been by there this weekend, but, okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Good.
Where
I know one resident was-
bench by the
By
bus
the-
stop, basically.
Yeah, by the bus stop. One resident was asking about it, and I guess they walk and they pick up trash, and so thank you to them for doing that, and, they would like to dump it there, put it in that trash receptacle there, so.
I'll have to double check, but I
Excellent.
do believe there is one at that corner now.
Okay.
So.
Great, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Another new business, I would ask if somebody need to make a motion or a discussion about the list of, where'd you go with that list of names? Thank you. The Board of Zoning Appeals, the mayor has asked that these 5 names be approved and put onto the Zoning Appeals Board. Yes. Thomas Galvis, Diane Kallmeyer, Stephen Lawson, John Peters, and John Knox.
Yeah. Some of them, their terms haven't expired, and then others have.
And it's-
Well, we need a motion to approve these, but if there's any discussion yet first on the names. You said you got one new name, but the other members are already serving, or,
They have, or their terms have expired.
okay.
Yeah, they were, yeah. I'm trying to stagger them, that's what they were supposed to be
Yes, I see
staggered.
that. The years are staggered, 1 year, 3 year, 1 year, 3 year, 2 years, so you don't lose everybody at once.
I'd like to make a motion then, to approve the appointment by Mayor Moody for the Board of Zoning Appeals, the 5 people on there.
And I'll second.
Okay, a motion was made by,
Ms. Lingo.
what's your name?
Lingo.
Go. By Denise. Second, who did second that? No, I'm sorry. George, Mr. George has seconded it to approve the members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is that just a voice vote? Aye, it doesn't have to be, yeah. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You got one filled, Jenny.
Thanks. I'm working on the other ones.
Any other new business, council? Ms. Lingo?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Ms. Lingo has made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? A second. Ms. Rissel? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.